Hola, culés, and welcome back to Fullback Barça Football's podcast. It's been a while. It's been a long season, a very successful season for Barca fans, and we have all enjoyed it tremendously. Now it's time to kind of look forward and see what does the future bring, because the future, again, looks quite nice for Barca for a change.
Yeah, so the footballers are also taking a break. So we also decided to take a break, not do anything related to football for a while. So we'll start our season now, get on with the coverage of the team. Looks like Barca has a good core that it can depend on, and possibly a little bit of tweak, a little bit of adjustment here and there can really create a team that can go all the way and challenge for all the trophies. That's the expectation in the fan base. So yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit. We'll talk about some of the key stories that are happening right now. Well, with that, without further ado, Dom, let's get started.
Thank you, Dev. The Barca core is extremely strong, right? We do have players that can compete at all fronts. We saw that already, right? We saw that Barca have the capacity, they have the coach now, and they have the players to actually fight for everything, even in Europe, which was not impossible, but very difficult. Now, we also knew there were some holes in the squad that had to be addressed. And one of those holes was the goalkeeper thing.
Oh yeah.
Joan Garcia is all but confirmed. At the moment of this recording, guys, it's still not official, but it's almost as good as official, right? Almost done. So I think the best place to start, Dev, is to address that elephant in the room and address Joan Garcia. Your honest thoughts off the top of your head, very objective, a bit of passion, emotions in there mixed up. How do you feel about this transfer coming through?
Ter Stegen was good and has been incredible in certain seasons and has been part of the success of the team. So there's no taking that credit away from him. But we know for a fact that in Europe and in those big matches, we have suffered because we didn't have a difference maker between the stakes. And Ter Stegen was that guy a few years ago, 2016, 2017. You could count on him in that manner. But recent years, there are games that we could have won and we didn't win because maybe a save could have been better without being uncharitable to Ter Stegen. So I think it was long overdue. I think the market opportunity was incredible with the release cost that was there. And the fact
Mhm.
that there are so many things, like he was from Espanyol, and the fact that we could get him, that's an incredible statement. That the fact that we can get him at that price point, incredible statement, shows an enormous commitment from the board that they're serious about plugging the holes. Do I think this signing will make a huge difference? 100%, right? Whether we see it immediately or not. I don't know how a Joan Garcia will play to Flick's highline because in Espanol, very different
Okay.
setup. So I'm very keen to understand. I would like your point because you've analyzed him a lot.
I have, yeah.
My only question is I don't know how he will adjust to that highline, but his body
Mhm.
of work speaks for itself. The questions that I have can be categorized into three classes. One, I would love to understand, and then I have a point of view on how he will adjust to that high line. Given many teams who have suffered from that would have strategies to encounter that, to go against it, to build on that. So, given all of that, how will Joan Garcia fare on that? That's my first. That's what I would like to debate on. The second
Mhm.
one is finance related. I have concerns about registration, 100%. And then the final thing is the elephant in the room. What happens if Ter Stegen refuses to leave and just there? And then that's not good for the team morale or anything
No,
in that manner. And it's going to be a stressful situation because he will
it will
train.
be.
You can't put him in the stands. He's going to train with the team.
And
He's
he's a
not
captain too, which is it makes things a lot worse. Yeah.
He's a captain. He's going to train. He's not going to be happy. It is going to be challenging. Ceiling racer, 100%. Exactly the player we needed for a long term, and we've got him, which is great. But now there are these other things that we need to think about, and that's what I would like to discuss.
Okay, I will start with the third point, which is the Ter Stegen point. Now, obviously, everyone keeps talking about the World Cup, and that's the fair point, right? If Ter Stegen wants to be in the running for the World Cup, be fit for the World Cup, be ready to be at the highest level possible for the World Cup, he needs to play. Now, there's always an option in his mind, I think, where he sees this as a duel, right? If I play well enough, I might actually start ahead of John Garcia. Now, quality of each goalkeeper aside, how realistic is that expectation for him? Because for you to be able to showcase that, you need to play. Now, the idea, at least the idea that we get from the media, is that Jean Garcia is coming to be the starter, and that's it. Now, we could always have a situation where Flick rotates goalkeepers, but that rarely happens in football. You don't really rotate goalkeepers. I don't think Ter Stegen would accept that role now, because he's not a young up-and-coming goalie anymore. He's an established captain, veteran of the club, veteran of the game, and he wants to have that prestige of being the number one in every case, right? As long as, he's fit and whatnot. So if he stays or refuses to leave, rather, there is a high chance that he risks being on the bench or not even being in the squad. Can he afford that? Can Barca afford to have a player of that magnitude in wages and whatnot sitting and rotting in the stands or on the bench? Now, one option which ties into the finances, which you can tell me more about, is the termination of the contract. We saw that option floating around in the media, and people say, okay, Barca terminate his contract, they actually pay off whatever it was that they are due, but then other reports stated that Ter Stegen doesn't want that. He wants his full wages until 2028, something like that.
He wants 42 million.
42 million. It's massive for this Barca side, with this Barca club. And on paper, he has every right to do that.
Yeah.
It's tough to go into the morality of things. People say, oh, he doesn't love the club, whatnot. It's business, right? He has his contract. So that's a difficult one to say. But looking from our perspective and seeing the numbers and the performances of both players, Joan Garcia versus Ter Stegen, there is no debate there. Jean Garcia at this very moment is at a different level. Now, you asked me how does his quality, his player profile translate to Barca. One thing that I have noticed with Jean Garcia's ability at Espanyol and the context of Espanyol and Barca is one thing they have in common, obviously, different tactics, different situations on the pitch, but both Espanyol and Barca have conceded high quality chances throughout the season. That was in our big analysis, guys, that you can find on the blog. We did a full breakdown of all Barca's conceded goals in La Liga and the Champions League. And my consensus was, okay, our goalkeepers were not difference makers, but our goalkeepers were consistently in unenviable situations. They were put into impossible situations, even where they could not have saved not half of those goals, but more than half of those goals would have required an immense, and I'm saying immense, goalkeeper ability to save. More than half of those 62 goals that we have conceded throughout the Liga and the Champions League. And that is the common factor, because Espanyol, at this very moment of time, I've watched 51 of Espanyol's conceded goals this season in La Liga. So 51 goals that Joan Garcia has conceded so far. And the ratio of those high quality chances is substantial. Jean Garcia sits at 0.70 something. So there's a little difference, but both clubs, Espanyol and Barca, have conceded high quality chances throughout the season. So that tells me, okay, Joan Garcia already knows is already familiar with that. He's used to being in very tough situations. And the good thing is that he is not very easily beat, right? If you want to beat Joan Garcia, you need extraordinary attempt strikes. The other good point is the high line and the exits of the goalkeeper, the courage of the goalkeeper. Now, Joan Garcia ranks as, I think it was second in La Liga for the number of exits. And so I think when it comes to sweeping and being that guy with the reflexes and courage to exit the line and be an outfield player, so to speak, he can do that. Now, he has a technical floor. I will say floor. I won't say ceiling, because he's not shown, or he's not been put in those situations yet to have to excel at that consistently. Can he do it? I think he can. I think he has the quality of the pass. He has the eye and the technical execution to do that.
How does he conduct that backline? That would be interesting for me to watch, and how preseason for him goes with Flick. So I'm very interested in that. I just don't see Ter Stegen being put in the stands as something viable for a long time. It will be too much media noise, and it will just affect the team badly when they don't need the circus to happen. Yes, the season was amazing. So obviously they have had some winnings and some budgets, and registration can be a challenge, especially with all the renewals that have happened. Barca did a great job. They did renew the key players consistently without going outside first, which was amazing. But I think that's going to be a challenging situation until we know for sure that he can be registered. There are questions. Yeah. So I think that will be a drama that unfolds over the summer, and that's Barca, so there has to be some drama, which is fine. But overall, I think we've got a winner among the stakes, and I think we're going to win some games just because of him. If you think about Inter this season in Champions League, without Sommer, we are in the final. Barca also have a difference maker like that right now, which is something that we need to look forward to. So yeah, happy days. I think the financial situation still needs to be figured out, and the other question will be Ter Stegen. How do you manage
Yeah.
him?
Yeah, that will be a big one, and we won't know until we know. That's the reality of things. But I do agree, the Champions League, especially, it's a game of moments, right? In La Liga, your quality will eventually shine through because it's a long season, and good football will always prevail. The Champions League, you don't get that many chances. You don't get 36 tries to win something. So having that guy who can control the moments better or help you control the moments better will make the difference. Now, it doesn't mean that you will always control them. It doesn't guarantee that you will master everything every moment in the game, but sometimes those moments can win you games and they can win you titles. So we'll see what
Absolutely.
happens.
Let's go to the other side of Spain, which is in the capital of Madrid, where there has been a silent revolution that's been happening. Lots of
Mhm.
changes, and I think great changes. Why don't we start with your thoughts on all the signings, and then I'll come in.
Yeah, obviously the coach signing is still the biggest one. I feel like it's what will define the next phase of Real Madrid's. I don't want to say rebuild because they've been rebuilding for a while now, but the next phase of this project, and I think the Madridistas have every right to be excited now.
They
For
do.
a Barca point of view, obviously, a strong Real Madrid means bad news for Barca in general, but it also means that they will push us again, right? They will push us to become even better than last season because if we do repeat the same mistakes of last season, chances are Madrid will be there to capitalize on that much better than they did last season. Obviously, we beat them 4 times, which is incredible. It's just the reality of things. It's very difficult to keep Madrid under your thumb. We have been doing really well, generally speaking, going head to head with Madrid because Barca are the only team that doesn't fear Madrid and that always has the confidence and the ability to beat Madrid. That said, it's not always possible to beat Madrid on all fronts. The thing I also look forward to seeing is how does this big change in coaches affect this Madrid team that's full of superstars, that's full of people who want and need the freedom, the need to express themselves, the need to be left alone in a sense to do what they like to do best. When Xabi Alonso is a coach that is about everything, he wants things done a certain way. He wants rules. He wants a structure. He wants certain principles in his team, in his play, that every player adheres to, right? So there are certain things that he likes done, whether that's playing from the back, whether that's attacking in a certain way, whether that's certain players or certain profiles always existing in the team and being the core of that team, which means that you have your tasks and you're doing those tasks religiously. Now, Ancelotti was like night and day. That was completely different with Ancelotti. He had some principles set in stone, but the biggest principle was let them play, let them figure things out by themselves. He spoke about that religiously in the media, and he is still known for that. So how does a team that has Mbappe, Bellingham, Rodrigo, Vinicius, and now some young
And
new players, yeah, how does that team adapt to a completely different regime? That's the big thing now. Maybe they take everything on board. Maybe that makes them better and stronger. But there are chances, at least from our point of view, that it will be difficult, at least in the beginning. So it might be a long process. It might be even a painful process for Madrid because it might require sacrifices. And another question that this poses is, does that team, do those superstars, are they ready to accept those sacrifices?
profile wise, do you find the right profiles in Madrid to play the Xabi Alonso way?
It's very difficult because Xavi Alonso Leverkusen was he was very central. He was very aggressive in the press and in possession, which is not always the way Madrid do things or have been doing things lately. The in the press especially, Madrid have been quite a passive team with a front three or four that they have. Now, how does Xavi change that culture? Because it will be a cultural shift. Madrid have not been known for that for a while now, I would say. Vinny and Mbappe, especially, how do you drill that into them? Are they going to be on board with that? Bellingham is someone who can be a workhorse, absolutely. Rodrigo is also a bit more hardworking, but as you say, he might be more out than in at this point. Who replaces him? Is it a new kid that's coming up? He could be a right winger, I guess. But the Xabi also often played with two number 10s as well. So how does he manage that? Because Madrid, they do have this left-sided bias, but they do have width on both sides at times. Now Xabi didn't have that. He had more of a lopsided asymmetrical setup, if I remember correctly. I would have to pull up my notes on them. There are differences in the way they approach games. Leverkusen to Madrid, they do like to build from the back. They do like to have the numerical superiority. Madrid were more about inviting you in and then playing over you. I see this as a big challenge because in all phases, they do have the profiles. They can reenact some of that. But in all phases, Xabi is different, right? Xabi's teams or was different to this current Madrid team. So
Just the way.
exactly. So a big change is coming whether they like it or not. Because I don't think Xabi as a coach is very hands-on as well. We already saw the clips from the training grounds. He's directing things, he's instructing players, he's telling them to do things differently. Now, if they can take that on board and actually say, okay, he's the coach, he knows what he's doing, he can actually make us better, improve us, then fine. And I think they can do the things that he's asking them to. Now, are they willing to do all those things? Now, that's the bigger question. So it's more of a mental, psychological will, the strength of will kind of thing, because the change will be enormous in all phases. Playing from the back, being more a possession heavy team, all the way to being a very aggressive off the ball team, all of that is a cultural shift for Madrid at this moment because even under Zidane and Ancelotti, I don't think they were that team. Not religiously, not consistently.
Let's talk about Trent. It's not the same
Yeah.
Trent like in like from Liverpool, but obviously world class player will obviously be beneficial for the likes of Vinny and Mbappe for sure. No
Yeah.
questions on that. But also, does it cause a defensive liability for Madrid from that perspective? Number one. And then on the other side, if you think about Dean and the defensive situation, Madrid's defense wasn't the best last season. And they also had a lot of players injured and so on. So all that taken together, how do you see these three players gel in or contribute to the next season?
I think with Huijsen and Trent, they will be starters. I think they will slot in Trent especially because Madrid they've been having some right back issues, or especially actually not just right back. Left back has also been a point of interest for Madrid. Now the right back situation, obviously, Trent would be someone. I think he is of immense quality. Now the defensive liability is a funny thing to me because obviously, yes, he's known for that. He's known to be a defensive liability, but I also think that Liverpool have not done a good enough job to prevent him from being in situations where he's just put on a silver platter for attackers, right? He's been put into such difficult scenarios consistently that I think that's why his reputation has taken a hit a bit. Now, if he is guarded better or maybe put in a better, more cohesive, more compact structure, I don't think he suffered as much. Or they've not been so far. Maybe Xabi changes that, but he will need to change that because if let's say he faces Barca and he gets a Nico Williams running at him or Rafinha running at him or whoever it is, right, Balde, there will be problems, right? There will be problems if Trent is consistently isolated with the winger or the fullback or he's not getting the help he needs, he will suffer. Obviously, he will because his strengths do not lie in the defensive aspect of things, but he's not a terrible defender as people paint him to be. I don't think he is. So it will be up to the coach to minimize those situations. On the face of it, if nothing changes and Madrid continue having these holes on the right and putting Trent there to put out fires. Now, in the center back position, I think Huijsen is someone who will bring that build-up quality, the progression through running and passing. And I think Xabi will like that. He would like to have someone who can conduct things from the back. And that's a good fit for Madrid. So I would say that. And then Mastu, how do you pronounce his name?
Mastantuono.
Yeah, exactly. That guy. I think obviously a number 10 sort of kind of player, which will suit Xabi as well because he likes to play with one or even two number 10s. Now, does he slot in on the right wing in case Rodrigo leaves? We'll see about that. He can do that. He can do that, but he's more of a central figure himself. He will cut inside and be between the lines. I think he fits the mold of profile Xabi likes and wants. Is he an immediate starter? Depends on the setup, right? You have Bellingham who can be a number 10, obviously. Mbappe likes to occupy those zones. Vinicius likes to be in those zones. There's people there who will occupy those zones, which makes me believe, okay, unless there's two number 10s, maybe, or if he's the right winger, that's the situation where he starts. Otherwise, he's probably going to be a player who comes off the bench. That's my thoughts for now, but we'll see what happens. Yeah.
And the defensive debt that is on a team when you have three players who are not participating in the press, right?
Yeah.
One. And two, I think even midfield wise, Bellingham's great quality and Valverde is a
Yeah.
great player without a question. But does that get balanced? Trent will bring that attacking threat, but attack wasn't the problem for Madrid ever, right? It was the balance that was the problem. So does this solve for the balance issues?
Profile wise, not really. Profile wise, they've not done much to balance things out. We talk about superstar quality a lot. Madrid have a lot of superstars, obviously, and again, it goes back to the coach. How can the coach drill this into the team? Can he? Because the balance comes from everyone doing having a task and enacting that task, but that is also psychological, right? It's also mental. Will those players be willing to maybe have less of a superstar treatment and more of a collective presence? I don't know. See, I can't answer that question because for the balance to be there, things would have to change for Madrid in that front. At the highest level, you can't have too many passengers. Let's say everyone needs to do their part, and Xabi will want that. He will want that because he wants the willing and active participation in a cohesive unit in a structured way. Madrid lack that. It sounds cliche and cheesy, but I think it's true. It has to be a collective thing, and everyone needs to be on board with this. And Xabi will want that. He will insist on that, and it will be up to the players to actually accept it and then enforce it.
All said and done, I think there's change, and change is always welcome. So it'll be interesting to see how it happens,
Yeah,
and whether it be the Super Cup or the Copa del Rey or La Liga or Champions League. I think we're going to meet Madrid again. This time, meetings will be a little bit different, and hopefully, we come
yeah.
out on the winning side or not. We'll get to see. Let's move to the final story of the day, which is basically after many years and many disagreements and upset. I think there is word in the street that Nico
Yeah.
Williams is ready to join. And Barca are also attentive to the situation, given their financial situation mostly. Not yet solved because 60 million. And then, of course, there's a question of his salary and all of that stuff. And if he comes in, who goes out? So let's start with the rumor itself. I know, Dom, we have already said that he's a good fit. Among all the players that we profiled, we already said that yes, for Flick's Barcelona, if you have somebody like him, it slots in very nicely, ticks in all the boxes, white thread, runners behind, central nine. All of the things are really taken into account, and him with Balde can be an incredibly powerful combination. What are your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts are that Nico comes in as a signing, if he comes in as a signing, has very little downs. On the face of it, young player with an elite ceiling. I think he's a player who has not reached his upper echelons of his ability yet, but he will do so in an elite team, which is Barca. He already has a connection with the players, as you said. There is that chemistry that you cannot really buy, right? You can't go out and just buy chemistry with players. He has that. He likes the players like him. He's used to playing with those players, and they used to playing with him. So you don't get that. It's always an adjustment period. Barca is the most unique team when it comes to the team culture and the club culture and the way the Barca play, the way the expectation falls on top of Barca players' shoulders. I think that's very unique in the world of football. With Nico, that will require a lot less time to gel and to actually mold itself. Now, he fits the system. We need a player like him. We need someone who's a threat, who brings a bit of chaos, or brings a bit of just dribbling and bit of unpredictability, but also gelling with Balde and letting Balde be more of a player who doesn't need to be doing everything offensively and defensively. That helps a lot. He plays multiple positions. You said it as well. He can be a left winger. He can be a right winger. Essentially, there is potential for him to be played, but I don't think we'll see that as much yet. He's used to La Liga as well. He's played against all those teams. He knows what it's like. He knows what it takes. He's used to facing teams in certain ways. Now, at Barca, he will face those same things, but in a different context because obviously players and teams set up differently against Barca than they do against 98% of the other La Liga teams. And the finances are interesting. There's a release clause that makes it seem like he's a bit cheaper than most other players of that ceiling. Now, the wages, reportedly, he will not ask for those incredible, insane wages that we have heard about when it comes to his links to Bayern, for example. I think he was asking for about 20 million or something
20 mil.
for Bayern. Yeah, but now apparently he's ready to accept the 12 million, whatnot.
I think that's a little bit of media.
It could be. So I don't know. I'm not going to go into that too much. But yes, on the face of it, the he ticks most, if not all, the boxes in comparison to a Leao or whatnot. I still think Leao is a superior player, but Nico would have an easier time adjusting and being the right fit for Barca. And I think he comes with fewer question marks and more of a natural fit type of player, I would say, in terms of everything from language, culture, league, players, chemistry, all of that is already taken care of. Now, what does that do to a team that's as technical as Barca? Losing a third midfielder, I don't think it's ideal. And we have seen Rafinha as a 10 in action last season. It wasn't always the best, but it produced goals, it produced directness and threat. Absolutely, it will produce that. Especially with Nico on the left, it will bring you attacking impetus. It will also turn Barca into a less patient, less control geared team. Definitely will. And it might also lead to a more vulnerable midfield because you only have two midfielders behind you, unless you tuck in. Well, you need to do something to reinforce the rest defense, which means you need to do something to reinforce your defensive side while you are attacking, if that makes sense. So your defense in possession needs to be more stable if you're going with Rafinha as a 10 and Nico as a left winger, because half of your attack players will be attacking constantly. So you need to have some sort of a safety net behind that. Otherwise, you risk of doing the same thing as you did this season, which is attack, score lots of goals, but also concede high quality chances regularly.
The skill set that he has and what he will bring to the table, and his combination with Lamine, his ability to thread with Lewandowski, or whether it be Dani Olmo, or whether it be Rafinha, I think there's a lot of goodness in that, and it'll be really difficult for many teams in La Liga and even in the Champions League, or what have you. But how does Flick balance that team if he plays? Because I don't think he's going to come and sit if he's coming as a starter. That's at least that's what the discussion will be. If that happens, then how does Flick balance with two midfielders, literally, and who are they? And then when you think about then Frankie de Jong, Pedri, Bernal, Gavi, so many questions to be
Yeah.
answered, right? So I think for me, however, I think I would take a Nico Williams over a Luis Diaz
Oh yeah.
simply because he's way
Same.
younger. The opportunity to grow and develop is there, and you are investing for a long-term future. So I
Yeah.
personally would go there, but the club will decide what the club decides. Our first episode for the new season, and we've been doing it now for the last 2-3 seasons. So it's great to be back, and it's great to be back with you guys. Send us your comments. Let us know what topics you want us to talk about. Hopefully, we win the Champions League this year. That would be the icing in the cake, but one never knows. So, everything to play for.
This is something that we enjoy doing, and apparently you enjoy listening to us, which is always a plus. And we do hope that you will keep doing that. Do visit our other channels as well. The blog is active once again. We do have a lot of analysis going through, especially now during the transfer window, because now is when the juicy stuff happens, and the juicy stuff is continuing to happen. I hope that you enjoyed this, and we hope to see you again next week. Stay safe, and Visca el Barça.
See you guys.